The truth nobody tells you. They said awakening would set you free. They promised clarity, peace, purpose. But here you are, awake and numb. No more fire to prove yourself, no more hunger to chase validation, just a strange silence in your soul. You're not broken, you're just shedding the illusions. Carl Jung said, enlightenment is not about imagining figures of light, but about making the darkness conscious. This isn't depression, it's a soul detox. The hustle rooted in pain is dying. You're not lost, you're being reborn, from truth, not fear. That emptiness you feel, it's sacred. It's the space where illusions once lived, where people-pleasing, chasing love, and survival mode goals used to scream. Now, there's quiet. But in that quiet, your soul is whispering, this is who you really are. No masks, no ego-driven dreams, just raw, honest existence. You're unplugged from the matrix, and it's not a movie ending. It's messy, it's uncomfortable, but it's real. This is the space where your highest self takes the throne. Not the version of you built for others, but the one created by divine design. The world sells awakening like it's a glow-up, but the truth, it's a strip-down, layer by layer, lie by lie, pain by pain, all of it being removed, not to punish you, but to return you to yourself. And yes, it feels like grief, because parts of you are dying, not the true parts, but the performative ones, the identities shaped by trauma, the roles you played to survive, those are crumbling. And beneath that rubble, your real self is rising. Don't rush this phase. Don't try to force old motivation to return, because the old you is gone, and thank God. That version of you was built to be accepted, not to be authentic. Now you're stepping into alignment. Now you're rebuilding from truth. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This is that moment, that divine pause, where you reclaim authorship, where you stop living from reaction and begin living from intention. So if it feels heavy, let it. If it feels empty, feel it. Because these are birth contractions, the pain of becoming, not the end of your story, but the dismantling of a story that was never yours. This is the beginning, the start of your real life. Not the one built for applause, likes, or titles, but the one that aligns with your soul contract. So breathe, pause, feel every layer leaving, and welcome the truth. Not the shiny one, the sacred one, the one you were always meant to live. Chapter 1. The spiritual crash no one talks about. You thought awakening would feel like flying, that once you saw the truth, the pain would vanish and everything would suddenly make sense. But what actually happened was silence, stillness, an uncomfortable emptiness that you can't explain to anyone. You awaken, the illusions fall away. The stories you told yourself, that success would complete you, that love would save you, that hustle equals worth, collapse like a house of cards. Your ego, the part of you that clung to identity, to validation, to control, begins to crumble. You stop chasing, you stop pretending, you stop performing for a world that never really saw you. And then, it hits you. You feel nothing, not pain, not joy. Just this strange spiritual stillness, like standing in the ruins of a city you once ruled, wondering what any of it even meant. A flat line of the soul, not a breakdown, but a void. A spiritual no man's land. And in that void a whisper rises, now what? That one question is where most people give up. They panic. They think something's wrong with them. They try to run back into the old life, into noise, into numbness, just to feel something. But Carl Jung knew. He warned us, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And that's exactly what this moment demands. Because here's the paradox. The more conscious you become, the more your old life stops making sense. The job that once gave you pride now feels like a prison. The relationships that once felt comforting now feel draining. The goals you once obsessed over now seem hollow. This is the crash that no one talks about. The spiritual withdrawal from the fake life you built on survival, not truth. From ego, not essence. From expectation, not alignment. It's not depression. It's detox. You're not broken, you're clearing the fog. The soul is silent not because it's absent, but because it's preparing for your real voice to return. So if you're in this space right now, where nothing feels exciting and nothing makes sense, where you feel like a stranger in your own body and a ghost in your own life, don't run, don't distract yourself, don't go back to what numbed you, because this is the sacred unraveling, the death of who you thought you were, so that the truth of who you are can finally rise. This isn't the end of your motivation, it's the clearing of the false motives, so that real purpose can find you. Now breathe. You're not behind, you're not lost, you're awakening, for real this time. Audit Chapter 2. The soul turns down the volume. After the initial shock of awakening comes the silence. But not the peaceful kind people imagine, not the meditate on a mountaintop and feel divine kind. It's heavier than that, quieter, like a radio station you love just fading out. Life still moves around you, but it's like someone turned the volume way down. You wake up in the morning, and there's no fire, no urgency, no chaos, just this weird emotional numbness, as if your soul pressed pause on the movie of your life. And this right here, this confuses most people. They panic, they say, where did my passion go, where's my drive? But the truth is, your soul is not broken, it's just whispering for the first time. Carl Jung warned us, the unconscious becomes conscious through suffering, but the world avoids it at all costs. See, the ego likes noise, it thrives on distraction, movement, applause. But the soul speaks in silence, in the spaces between your thoughts, in the pauses you once filled with productivity, entertainment, and performance. And when you finally awaken, when the veil lifts and the illusions collapse, your soul doesn't scream. It retreats. It goes inward. Because now you're ready to listen. This isn't a breakdown. This isn't laziness. This isn't you losing motivation. This is the sacred in-between, the space between what has ended and what hasn't yet begun. The Buddhists call it the bardo. The mystics call it the dark night of the soul. Carl Jung called it initiation. You might just call it emptiness, but in that emptiness, you are not failing. You are becoming. Your soul has turned down the volume on the outside world, so you can finally hear the signal within, the one you've ignored for years, the one that doesn't want success for approval, but purpose for alignment. This stillness isn't the end of your story. It's the reset, the holy reboot, the womb before your second birth. So don't resist it. Don't try to escape it. Let it do what it came to do. Strip away everything that was never truly you. This is not failure. This is the moment your real life begins. Chapter 3. Motivation collapses. For a reason, you didn't lose motivation. Let's make that clear. You outgrew the version of yourself that was addicted to it, the version of you that needed motivation just to feel worthy, just to keep running from the silence inside. Let's be real. Most of your old goals weren't rooted in your soul. They were planted by your wounds. The dream job wasn't always about purpose. It was about proving your value. The perfect body wasn't just about health, and it was about finally feeling lovable. The constant grind, hustle, and performance. It wasn't passion, it was survival. Carl Jung called this mask your persona, the false self you created to be accepted in a world that rewarded performance and punished authenticity. The persona is that which in reality one is not, but which oneself and others think one is. Carl Jung. And now that the mask is slipping, now that you're no longer acting in the drama of who you're supposed to be, your motivation didn't die. Your illusion did. The drive that pushed you before, it was fear in disguise. Fear of being nothing. Fear of not being seen. Fear of falling behind in a race you didn't even choose to run. But now that you've awakened to that truth, that fuel doesn't work anymore. It can't. Because your soul refuses to be manipulated by the same fear-based contracts it once agreed to. And this is why your ego is terrified. Because its world, the world built on ambition, applause, identity, is collapsing. But your soul is celebrating. Because now it finally gets to speak. Now it gets to build a life not from desperation, but from devotion, not from chasing what you lack, but from offering what you are. This collapse of motivation isn't your downfall. It's your divine turning point. The universe is removing the false fuel from your tank so it can pour in the real one. Purpose, alignment, inner truth. So if you feel lost right now, you're not. You're just between identities, between the mask and the mirror, between the old chase and the new calling. You don't need more motivation. You need more meaning. And that, my friend, is exactly what your soul is rebuilding. Deeper, truer, freer. Chapter 4. The void isn't empty. It's full of truth, this phase you're in. The silence, the stillness, the numb ache of nothingness. It's not new, it's not random, it's ancient. The mystics knew it. The sages lived it. They called it the hermit phase. The time when the soul retreats from the noise and enters sacred seclusion. Carl Jung had a name for it too. He called it enantiodromia, the sacred reversal. The moment when things swing so far in one direction, they collapse into their opposite. You go from, I must become everything they admire, to, why do I need any of it at all? It's the spiritual pendulum, swinging from ego to essence, from chasing the world to questioning it all. You feel lost, directionless, like a fog descended over your entire identity. You used to burn with hunger. Now you're just tired. You used to care about goals. Now they feel hollow. You used to run. Now all you want is to be still. This isn't laziness. It's transformation. It's the part no one glamorizes. No quotes, no hype, just you, alone in the cocoon. And what happens in that cocoon? The caterpillar dissolves. Literally. It becomes goo, formless, directionless, destroyed. That's you right now. No longer who you were. Not yet who you're becoming. And it's not pretty, it's not postable, it won't make anyone clap for you. But it's real. This void isn't empty. It's full of truth. Every illusion you clung to, it's being stripped. Every identity you wore to be loved, it's being burned. And what's left behind? You. The raw, unfiltered, unpolished truth of who you really are. Not the achiever, not the hustler, not the performer. Just you. Carl Jung wrote, "In all chaos there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. This is that secret order. This is the divine disintegration. And the void. It's not punishment, it's preparation. It's the darkness before the expansion. It's the womb before the rebirth. It's the universe saying, be still. Something sacred is forming in you. So stop fearing the void. Start listening to it. Because what you hear in the silence will become the voice of your new life." Chapter 5. Why the world misdiagnoses your awakening. Let's get one thing straight. In a world drunk on speed, silence is seen as a problem. We live in a productivity-obsessed culture, where your value is measured in output, not presence, where success is defined by how fast you move, not how aligned you are. So the moment you pause, the moment your soul asks for stillness instead of striving, you panic. You feel lazy, you feel weak, you feel like a failure, because everything around you, the hustle culture, the motivational noise, the highlight reels, taught you that rest is regression and silence is failure. But that's a lie, a dangerous one. Carl Jung didn't see it that way. He believed that when your psyche stalls, it's not malfunctioning, it's healing. Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens. Carl Jung. So when you find yourself unmotivated, when you feel the brakes slam on your life's momentum, it's not sabotage, it's intelligence. Your psyche is wiser than your planner. Your soul is deeper than your to-do list. It knows that the only way out is in. And so, it stops you. Intentionally. It pulls your energy inward. It collapses your drive. It interrupts your performance, not to break you, but to uncover you. You don't need more pressure. You need more presence. You don't need to fix the lack of motivation. You need to feel what that absence is revealing. Maybe grief you never processed. Maybe identity you outgrew. Maybe trauma you silenced with overwork. This is not depression, this is transformation. The ego calls it failure, but the soul calls it alchemy. Because in this pause, you're not collapsing, you're composting. The old parts of you are being broken down so that the new you can root, rise and rebuild from truth, not trauma. So don't judge this sacred slowdown. Don't mislabel your awakening just because the world doesn't understand it. This isn't weakness, it's the wisdom of the unconscious, calling you home. Chapter 6. The self is awakening inside you. At first it feels like nothing, no fireworks, no divine downloads, just silence. The same unbearable stillness you've been sitting in for weeks, maybe months. But then, something starts to stir inside you. Not hustle, not that old adrenaline rush, not the urgency to prove yourself or catch up with the world. No, something quieter, but infinitely more powerful. It's not motivation, it's alignment. You stop chasing, you start responding. You stop demanding clarity. You start recognizing it when it whispers to you in quiet moments. And the most powerful part? You no longer need to be driven by fear, pressure, or guilt. You're learning to be led by something deeper, soul power. This is a completely different energy. It doesn't burn you out, it doesn't scream, it guides, it doesn't flicker when life gets windy, because it's rooted in something unshakable. This is the power that comes after the ego dies, after your false identities crumble, after your old motivations fade away. This is the power of the self. And Carl Jung described it perfectly. The self is a totality that includes the conscious and the unconscious. It is the wholeness of who you are. The self isn't just a spiritual idea. It's not just some enlightened version of you floating above life's mess. The self is your compass. It's the part of you that was never broken, never rushed, never confused. The self is the one who stayed silent while your ego screamed, who waited patiently while you chased empty validation, who watched with love while you lost yourself, so you could eventually come home. And now that the noise has quieted, now that the performance has ended, now that the world has stopped clapping, you can finally hear it. The self is awakening inside you, not to push you harder, but to guide you deeper, not to make you something, but to remind you that you already are everything you were seeking. This is your new foundation. It's not built on hype. It's built on wholeness. It's not chasing approval. It's resting in truth. So if you're feeling that subtle shift, that calm clarity rising in you, don't ignore it. That's your real self saying, "Welcome back, let's begin." Chapter 7. How to live from the self, not the mask. This is the moment it shifts, the moment you stop asking the world for permission and start listening to your soul for direction. For most of your life, your decisions came from the mask, from the persona, the socially acceptable self, the version of you that asked, "What should I do? What will they think? How do I win?" That version was trained to perform, to impress, to survive. But now, something else is rising, the self, the real you. And it's whispering new questions, softer, but far more powerful. What's quietly calling me? What feels honest? Where is my truth, not their expectation? Because here's the truth. The ego seeks performance. The self seeks presence. The ego lives in front of the audience. But the self lives behind your eyes, in stillness, in awareness, in being. And when you start living from the self, you stop chasing motivation, you become it. You don't need hype songs, pressure, or panic, because now your energy flows from authenticity, not adrenaline. Every decision becomes sacred, not because it's strategic, but because it's aligned. You stop setting goals to feel enough. You start setting boundaries to protect what is enough. You stop asking, "How can I be impressive?" And you start asking, "What makes me feel alive?" This is the shift from survival to sovereignty, from ego to essence, from the noise of the world to the knowing within you. Carl Jung taught that the process of individuation, this inner journey back to the self, is the purpose of life itself. Individuation means becoming a single, homogeneous being, and insofar as individuality embraces our innermost, last, and incomparable uniqueness, it also implies becoming one's own self. So how do you live from the self? You stop outsourcing your truth. You stop editing your soul to fit into rooms that don't feel right. You stop performing and start participating in your own life. You ask different questions. You take slower steps. You choose honesty over applause. And when you do, you don't just feel motivated, you feel whole. And that wholeness, that quiet, grounded power, it becomes your compass, your fuel, your message to the world without ever having to shout. This is how you begin to lead your life, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. So now the question is, are you ready to stop performing your life and finally start living it? Chapter 8. The most powerful motivation is invisible. You used to need the noise, the external validation, the claps, the metrics, the deadlines, the pressure, like oxygen. It made you feel alive. It made you feel seen. But what happens when that fades? What happens when the claps stop? And you still show up? That's where the real power begins. The most powerful motivation on earth? You can't see it. You can't measure it. But you feel it, like a quiet, grounded yes rising from deep inside your chest. No one applauds you for listening to your truth. No one hands you a trophy for walking away from what drains your soul, but you do it anyway. You create, even if no one notices. You choose stillness, even when the world shouts for more. You follow curiosity, not checklists. You say no, even when it disappoints people you love. You say yes to the sacred whispers no one else can hear. And here's the truth, nobody says out loud. That's not a downgrade, that's a thing upgrade. Because you're no longer being driven by fear. You're being guided by authenticity, by soul, by essence. Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart." This is that moment. You don't need to prove anything anymore. You don't need to fit into a mold built by systems that never saw the real you. You're not trying to impress. You're here to express. And expression doesn't require an audience. It requires truth. It requires presence. It requires courage, the kind that no one sees but you. Because this inner fire, it burns quietly. It doesn't flare for attention. It glows with conviction. That's what real motivation is. Not a performance, a pulse. It's when you create because it's who you are. It's when you walk your path because it feels like home, not because it looks good on paper. It's when you stop asking, will this go viral? And start asking, does this feel real? This is the revolution. The shift from ego to essence, from hype to truth, from exhaustion to embodiment. You don't hustle anymore. You honor yourself. You don't react. You respond with intention. You don't burn out, you burn steady. Because now, you are your own flame, no matchstick, no audience, just you, lit from within. Chapter 9. This isn't spiritual depression, it's a soul rebirth. Let's drop the illusion, let's kill the myth, let's speak the truth. No one says out loud, you're not lazy, you're not weak, you're not spiritually failing, you're awakening. And it just doesn't look the way the world promised. Because real awakening, it doesn't come with glitter, it doesn't come with applause, it doesn't show up with angel numbers and peace signs and perfectly timed meditations. It shows up as disorientation, it shows up as fatigue, it shows up as confusion, emotional numbness, and questioning everything you ever believed. But make no mistake, you're not broken, you're breaking through. What you're going through isn't depression, it's decompression. The releasing of years and maybe decades of repressed emotions, silent trauma, fake identities, and survival mode patterns. This isn't burnout, it's reconstruction. Your nervous system is detoxing from years of pressure, performing, pretending. Your mind is reformatting, your identity is dissolving, you're not falling apart, you're being reassembled. Carl Jung called this process individuation. The painful but powerful journey of becoming your true self, not the self shaped by society, family, fear, or wounds. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Carl Jung. You're in that sacred pain now. It's not a setback. It's a soul update. You're not dying, you're shedding. Shedding the lies, shedding the masks, shedding the parts of you that were only ever survival strategies. not your truth. This moment is not your undoing. It's your rebirth. But here's the thing. Rebirths don't look like beginnings. They look like endings. They feel like chaos. They feel like darkness. But inside that darkness, a new light is forming. Not the light you imagined, but the one you are. Underneath everything the world made you believe, you are being rewired, from reaction to reflection, from fear to intuition, from noise to knowing, from proving and to being. This isn't regression. You're not going backwards, you're going deeper. Welcome to the void between who you were and who you're becoming. Welcome to the space where your soul takes the wheel and your ego finally rests. You've stepped into the fire, not to burn, but to be forged. This is not spiritual depression. This is sacred activation. This is the beginning of your becoming. Chapter 10. Final Reveal. You're not lost. You're remembering. Let's pause. Let's breathe. Let's look back, not with regret, but with reverence. The pain you endured? The loneliness that cracked your chest open at 2 a.m.? The friendships that faded without reason? The identity you outgrew but kept wearing like armor? None of it was punishment. It was preparation. Because you were never actually lost. You were being peeled back, layer by layer, belief by belief, lie by lie, until all that remained was you. The real you. The one before the trauma, before the programming, before you were told to dim your light, soften your voice, shrink your dreams. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And that's exactly what was happening. You weren't lost, you were unconscious, living by patterns, by pain, by past programming. But now, you're waking up, and in that awakening, everything starts to shift. You start to remember your fire, your worth, your truth. And yes, it's disorienting, because you realize how much of your life wasn't yours, how many choices were made from fear, not freedom, how much of your ambition was just a mask for pain. But that realization, that's the holy portal. That's where the magic begins. Because in remembering yourself, you reclaim your life, not the old life, not the scripted one, but the true one, built from soul, not survival. You stop needing validation. You start honoring resonance. You stop pleasing. You start aligning. You stop striving to become and start remembering who you already are. This isn't reinvention, it's remembrance. A return to the self you were before the world told you who to be. Carl Jung called this individuation, not becoming something new, but integrating everything you are. Your light, your shadow, your joy, your rage, all of it. Sacred. So if you feel like you're falling apart, you're not. You're falling back into alignment. If you feel like you're in the dark, it's because your soul is leading you inward, to reclaim the pieces, to gather the truths, to rebuild from something real this time. You're not broken. You're remembering. Not the version they created, but the version you buried. The wild one, the brave one, the one who didn't need to perform because they simply were. This is the final reveal. The holy unveiling, not of someone new, but of someone ancient, the you that existed before the world labeled you. And now, you're ready. Not to perform, but to embody. Not to chase, but to choose. Not to fix yourself, but to free yourself, because you're not lost. You never were. You were just waiting for this moment to finally remember who you really are. Chapter 11. The Soul's Contract, Your Awakening. Let's go deeper now. Beyond goals, beyond healing, beyond shadow work even. Let's talk about your soul's contract. The deeper reason you came here. Not to be perfect, not to fit in, not to become a polished product of society, but to remember who you truly are, beneath the wounds, the roles, the noise, the survival masks. You weren't sent here to be flawless. You were sent here to awaken, to pull back the layers, to reclaim the self you abandoned just to be accepted, to gather every piece you once exiled and call it you again, the broken parts, the awkward parts, the rage, the tears, the secrets, the scars. This isn't about becoming better. It's about becoming whole. Because your soul didn't come here for applause. It came for truth. And truth isn't always pretty, but it's always liberating. Carl Jung said, wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. And that's what you're here to do. To integrate, to embrace the contradiction, to make peace with the chaos, to look in the mirror and say, this is all me, and I honor it. Your soul signed up for this. It chose your wounds. It chose your family. It chose your pain, not to punish you, but to position you for your purpose. That heartbreak, that betrayal, that breakdown, it cracked you open on purpose. It made space. It created room for your real self to emerge. You were never meant to become a copy of the world. You were meant to become a mirror for the soul. And your pain, that was the teacher. That was the portal. That was the sacred invitation to begin again, but this time as the real you, the awakened one, the integrated one, the one who remembers, I chose this, and now I choose me. Chapter 12. The real you doesn't need fixing, it needs remembering. Everyone's telling you to improve, to fix, to heal, to upgrade. But what if the real path isn't forward? What if your soul isn't broken? It's buried. What if the person you're trying so hard to become isn't stronger than the one you already were before the world wounded you? You don't need another version. You need restoration. You don't need motivation. You need memory. Because the real you isn't waiting in the future. It's waiting underneath the rubble, underneath the shame, the trauma, the programming, the roles you were forced to play, the masks you wore to be loved. That's where the real you lives. Carl Jung once said, we meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. You've been meeting yourself all along, in the mirrors that triggered you, in the people who left, in the pain that wouldn't let go. Not because you were being punished, but because your soul was calling you back. The anxiety, it's not just chemical, it's spiritual. It's your soul rejecting the life that isn't aligned. It's your truth choking under the weight of who you're pretending to be. And the depression, it's not always dysfunction. Sometimes it's deep rest, a full system shutdown so your soul can reboot. You're not malfunctioning, you're recalibrating, returning to the one who was never lost, only silenced, only dimmed, only delayed. This is not your breakdown. It's your sacred reclamation. This is not your rock bottom, it's your soul's foundation. You were never supposed to hustle your way into healing. You were supposed to pause and remember that before you were criticized, you were confident. Before you were judged, you were joyful. Before you were rejected, you were radiant. Your light isn't gone, it's just covered. Your power isn't missing, it's just waiting for permission. And guess what? That permission is yours to give. So today, don't chase another version of yourself. Sit still long enough to remember the one you left behind, the one who danced without watching, the one who laughed from the belly, the one who trusted her voice before the world made her doubt it, the one who didn't perform to be worthy, she just was. Remember her, or him, or them, not to fix them, but to free them. Because that child, that artist, that dreamer, that warrior, they didn't disappear. They just got quiet, waiting, for you to finally whisper back, I see you, I remember, and I'm ready to live as you now. Chapter 13. Stop seeking, start embodying. How long will you keep searching for what's already inside you? How many books will you read? How many coaches will you follow? How many practices will you force yourself through just to feel worthy, healed, ready? Carl Jung said, who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. And that's the truth you've been avoiding. Not because you're weak, but because facing yourself is the most courageous thing you'll ever do. And now, it's time. You don't need another sign. You don't need more tips, tricks, or spiritual routines. You need embodiment. To live what you already know. To speak what you already believe. To walk the way your soul already whispered before the world made you doubt it. You've read enough, you've healed enough, you've done enough inner work. This isn't about knowing more. It's about becoming more. Not through striving, but through surrender. You don't need to prove your healing. You just need to live it. Speak with honesty, say no with power, say yes without guilt, rest without shame, create without asking permission. You are the practice now. Your daily breath, your boundaries, your presence, that's the proof. The most spiritual thing you can do. Be fully human, fully alive, unapologetically real. No filter, no mask. Just truth, in motion. This chapter of your life isn't about seeking the light, it's about becoming the light. You are no longer a student of this path, you are the embodiment of it. So walk it, speak it, stand in it. Even if your voice shakes, even if no one claps, even if it terrifies every version of you that once needed approval, because this is your turning point, from knowing to becoming, from seeker to embodiment. Let this land deep. The version of you that's trying to become better, that version is based on the lie that you're not already enough. But the truth is, the real work now is remembering your wholeness and living from it. Not waiting for confidence, but speaking while scared. Not waiting for signs, but choosing alignment. Not waiting for permission, but stepping forward like you're already chosen. Because you are. You always were. Now stop seeking and start showing the world what it looks like when truth walks the earth. Chapter 14. You aren't behind. You're being rebuilt. You scroll past everyone else's success, their glow-ups, their milestones, their wins, and a voice inside whispers, "You're behind. You're late. You should be farther by now." But that voice, it's not truth, it's trauma. It's comparison dressed in logic. It's the wounded part of you measuring divine timing against someone else's highlight reel. You're not behind. You're on time, for your path, your contract, your curriculum. Your soul doesn't rush, it rebuilds. Carl Jung said, life really does begin at 40. Up until then, you are just doing research. Some awaken at 20, some awaken at 60. The timeline is not the point. The point is awakening at all. And you're not late. You're just deep. Your path required destruction, delayering, unlearning. That takes longer than pretending. Your rebuilding may be slower, but it's sacred. You're not building a resume. You're building a soul. Your silence has purpose. Your pause is protection. Your delay is divine. This is not stagnation. It's sacred incubation. Not everything blooms in spring. Some things root in the dark. And right now, you're rooting. Not for speed, for strength, not for applause, for authenticity. The foundation is being laid in stillness. So when you rise, you don't just go viral, you stay grounded. You don't just shine, you stay whole. Let go of the timeline. Let go of the guilt. Let go of the shame that says you should be farther. You are not a project. You are a process. You are not a product of pressure. You are a reflection of your own becoming. And becoming takes time. Real time, womb time, universe time. This isn't delay, it's design. Because your healing isn't fast food, it's soul food, cooked slowly, with depth, with devotion, with fire. So next time that voice says, "You're behind," whisper back, "I'm being rebuilt." Rebuilt with more truth, rebuilt with stronger boundaries, rebuilt with softer breath, deeper roots, and a voice that no longer needs to scream to be heard. Because you're not chasing their timeline anymore, you're respecting your own, and this version of you, the one forged in silence, in fire, in surrender, that version isn't late, it's legendary. It's not on time, it's right on purpose. Chapter 15. You were never meant to fit in. You were born to remember who you are since childhood. You felt it. The ache, the edge, the sense that you didn't quite belong. You watched, you copied, you adapted, not to express, but to survive. You toned yourself down. You shaped yourself into what the world rewarded, not what your soul remembered. But that ache, that was never brokenness. That was your compass. It wasn't telling you to be better. It was whispering, "This isn't who you are." Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And now that privilege is calling, not to become what's impressive, but what's intimate. Not to gain status, but to reclaim soul. You weren't born to blend in. You were born to stand rooted, not louder but deeper, not shinier and but truer, and every time you felt like the outsider. That was your invitation to walk the inner path most people never dare to take. Because the more awake you become, the lonelier it feels at first. That's the price of truth in a world drunk on performance. But solitude isn't a punishment, it's preparation. It's how the soul clears the noise. It's how you begin to hear your original voice, the one you buried beneath expectations, achievements, and applause. You don't need to fit in. You need to return to the you who didn't care about fitting in at all. Because that version, that's the real one. The one who's ready now. So stop asking, how do I belong? Start asking, where did I abandon myself just to be accepted? Because that's the crack where your light was left behind. And now, it's time to go back and retrieve it. Your weirdness is your wisdom. Your sensitivity is your gift. Your silence holds a voice that can shake the world. You weren't meant to blend. You were meant to remind. Remind the world what realness looks like. Remind yourself what wholeness feels like. Not for validation, but for liberation. So here's your soul's truth. You were never too much. You were never not enough. You were just misplaced in systems that didn't speak your language. But now you speak it fluently. The language of depth, of sovereignty, of remembrance. This is your return. Not to a version of you they understood, but to the one your soul has been aching to become. Not the edited self, the eternal one. You're not here to perform. You're here to remember. And in remembering, you become unstoppable. The people who entered your life, they weren't random, they weren't distractions, they weren't mistakes, they were divine detours, whispers from the universe in human form. Each one arrived with a mirror, and whether they stayed or shattered you, they shaped you. Some triggered your awakening. Some tested your self-worth. Some taught you how to let go with grace. And some taught you how to finally choose yourself. They weren't your forever, but they were your becoming. Carl Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." So here's your invitation. No, your initiation. Stop chasing closure. Start claiming clarity. Stop asking, why did they leave me? And start asking, what version of me did they activate and what part of me did they leave behind that I still need to integrate? Because this journey, it was never about losing them. It was always about finding you. You didn't get abandoned. You got assigned and to a higher frequency. You didn't get rejected. You got redirected back to yourself. So now, pause. Feel that? That's your soul whispering, I'm ready. Not to be loved, to be whole. Now drop this in the comments as your declaration. I trust the timing. I honor the lesson. I choose the new me. Share this with someone who thinks it was just a heartbreak. Let them know it was a soul upgrade. And if this message hit your heart, don't just subscribe, stay awake. Because this channel, it's not for views, it's for truth. It's not here to feed your ego, it's here to free your soul. This is your space for healing, for remembering, for becoming. So walk forward now, and not as the person who was broken, but as the one who awakened. This isn't the end, it's the ignition. Your new life starts now, lit from within.